Greetings. We are knee deep into the fall now, or at least the month of September of 1993, as we look at 9 Chickweed Lane by the notoriously horny Brooke McEldowney. Every week we look at 1 week's worth of strips, discuss them, and analyze just a bit. You must be Mrs. Berber. Welcome to our little choir. Thank you. So they have their hymnals out there. I understand you're divorced. So am I. My husband couldn't leave his secretary alone. What was yours? A skirt chaser? A barfly? Or just an all-around pig? Before you black out, may I introduce you to my daughter, Etta? So here we have a divorcee who hates men. You know, I'm assuming that's the character here. And Etta is not taking kindly to this stranger saying such things about her father, Mr. Berber, who we have established Etta does feel responsible for the divorce, and it's a sensitive subject, as it's a sensitive subject in general. You could see that even Mrs. Berber was uncomfortable that it was broached so quickly. And rather than stopping Etta, Mrs. Berber is going to allow Etta to deck this woman upside the head with a book. All right. Here we have Etta with a knife in her back. She is gagging, gasping for breath, crawling on the ground. All right, Etta, you don't have to play piano for our guest, but I think you're very selfish. May I go now? So, Gran here has a guest who looks like mini Gran, basically. Kind of looks like Garfield in the face with these little points here. Actually looks a lot like Garfield. So Etta has put a knife in her own back to avoid having to play piano for the guest. And I think this is the first time that we find out that Etta plays piano. Now, we've seen her play the grass trumpet before, but this is the first time she's playing piano in the strip. That's nice. Juliet, dear, I just found some nice dresses for you to try on. So we have the Gran character outside the dressing room, Juliet, and then we see that Juliet is crawling through the dressing rooms trying to escape Gran. I think that we are discovering that Gran, the daughter of Gran, Mrs. Berber, is maybe named Juliet Berber. I'm assuming that's Mrs. Berber down there. Interesting. So here we have Mrs. Berber. I'm thinking that it could be Juliet Berber. I would like to confirm that. Have you had a relationship? Because, hold on, before I go forward, it is strange to think of a grown woman going clothes shopping with her elderly mother, you know? Having the elderly mother pick out clothes for the grown daughter. Especially because we had a strip earlier in time where the mother and the Gran character, where Mrs. Berber and Gran talked about, how when they would pick out clothes when Mrs. Berber was a child, and how much of a sordid experience that was. So it's strange they would revisit it in their adult lives. But we'll move on. Have you had a relationship with a man since your divorce? A relationship? I'd like to know what that ever got me. Etta. Does the clock keep running while I weep? This is catharsis, honey. I tack on a gratuity. This is catharsis, honey. I tack on a gratuity. As the therapist files her nails. This is horrible. This is very mean. She clearly struck a nerve here. Etta goes completely pale in the face, wide-eyed, turns over, starts crying. concerned that does she have enough money to pay for the session, you know, as it's being slowed down by her emotional outburst here. And the therapist can't care less, files her nails and waits and says, "I'll be tacking on a gratuity." "How is the movie, honey?" "Oh, it's bogged down in a love scene right now." And we see Mrs. Berber go, "Ugh!" She puts a pot on top of Edda's head. "Didn't you check the rating before renting it?" So she didn't want young Edda to see the sex scene in the movie, which is funny because just a week or so ago, Edda and Mrs. Berber were furiously reading the sex scene in a cheapo romance novel. So, whatever. Let's move on. "Good night, Gran. I love you. Kiss." "That girl thinks I'm going to take that for sarcasm, but she doesn't fool me. She's just getting away with affection." And then Gran glares at her daughter, who seems to not know how to react. So, terribly unhealthy relationship again. Edda genuinely expresses affection for her grandmother, says she loves her, and Gran says that she's getting away with affection, and then glares at her own daughter. Disgusting, really. This brings us to our Sunday strip for the week. Amos is walking and walks off a dang cliff. He's about to meet his doom. His shoelaces have come untied. I know you're on a daily strip schedule, but the fact that Amos and many characters' clothing is one or two amorphous blobs, and then later in these panels he decides, you know what? Not only will I render pant legs, I'll render shoes and shoelaces as well. The inconsistency bothers me. But Amos is about to fall headfirst into a pit of spikes when he is woken up by one of the sisters at the Catholic Church, and as we've seen in so many of these strips before, Amos grabs her and hugs her. He latches on to the closest warm body he can, and sometimes you'll see in these strips where they end in a hug, the other person doesn't know how to react to the hug, so they stand there with their arms at their side and their eyes wide, and that is a classic 9 Chickweed Lane gag, is hugging someone at the end of a strip. And I feel like I need to really think about this one, so I'm going to go do that. I hope you had a good time here this week on the show. If you haven't, please check out the earlier videos where I go over the history of 9 Chickweed Lane. Until then, please be kind to one another. Be kind to the one another. And be safe out there, alright? Good night.